Hey, I'm Raul Fuentes. I play in Maldito Dios, Predecessor, formerly in Rod and Disgust, and a guitar tech for True Fury. So, growing up, I never really listened to like rock or anything heavy, particularly. Like, my family thought that was the devil's music. I would listen mostly to like Spanish music, R&B, whatever was on the radio, Backstreet Boys. I didn't discover like I guess the heavier, I guess new metal. I discovered that through watching Naruto fights on YouTube with in the end playing in the background, and from there I kind of like just branched off into like looking up music. And one night I saw Slipknot, and from there that's where I just branched off to anything remotely heavy, and I got into like really heavy into like metalcore music and emo. One of my favorite bands being Underoath, and I wanted to learn how to play drums at first, but being growing up poor, not trying to like make you feel bad for me or anything, but growing up poor, I didn't like buying a drum kit was insane. So one of my friends lent me his old Squire guitar, and I learned how to play Reinventing Your Exit by Under Oath. And from there, I just went on just knowing that song, and eventually took guitar in high school, and that's how I learned how to play. But I didn't really do anything much with it besides like reading music and playing whatever my teacher would give me until after high school I started like covering more bands I was listening to, like Turnstile, Counterpart, stuff like that. Eventually like getting more into like the feel of playing heavy music. And my influences growing up was besides Underoath was also like Suicide Silence and Emir, Deathcore, Impending Doom, stuff like that. Later on, like eventually me getting into like Code Orange and Foundation, where they use a lot of dissonant chords and more like similar to deathcore, but not necessarily deathcore, and that's what attracted me into like liking hardcore and being where I am right now. What drew me into the El Paso music scene was like as a kid, I started going to like local shows like Battle of the Bands. At that time, it was like 2011 to 2012, so like all the bands were trying to sound like what you would see on Warped Tour and stuff, like Bust the Fall, Skylit Drive, and stuff like that, which I liked, but it didn't really attract me yet. So I would just go to shows here and there, like if any bands I liked would come into town. Like I got to see I Declare War, Impending Doom, which is probably the show that actually got me into seeing what hardcore's about, because they had an opener called Thick as Blood, and during their set I was just a scrawny little emo kid, and some dude just picked me up and threw me into the merch table. So after that, instead of being mad, I was like, this is sick, I need to like find more of this, and eventually like started coming across shows at the Spot, which is like down the street from where I live, by right by Speaking Rock and stuff. um so many sick shows happened there. I got to see Rotting Out with the Beautiful Ones. That was probably like the first hardcore only show where I saw everyone beating the shit out of each other, but like no fights happened. Everyone was cool. So I was like, this is sick. Later on, going to my first XBCX fest there, and like I want to say 2014, and that's where like I truly fell in love with it. Just seeing like all the like the brotherhood, the homies, and nothing but fun. Like it was an amazing night. Um, that's what made me keep coming around and made me want to start a band in general. So right after I graduated high school, I joined my first band called Until the Avalanche. They were a metalcore band, and that's where I learned how to like what gear I needed to play in a live setting, because all I had was my guitar and a Line 6 Spider amp. So I used my financial aid money to buy my first half stack, and I learned the ropes of what it was to like play in like live settings and in front of people, because I've always been a shy person. So doing playing in front of people like takes a lot from me. And from there, I started my own band called Rod and Disgust. I was like only 19 years old, and all I wanted to do was play hardcore, because at the time I really loved Foundation, Malfunction, Discourse, and stuff like that. And I teamed up with another buddy of mine. His name is Ramon Peña. He's more into like death metal, but our minds coming together to like write something changed the game for me, because I started playing more like slam riffs and stuff like that, which made me like want to play more breakdowns. And that's pretty much what Rod and Disgust remained being for quite a while. And during that time, I made a lot of friendships, Ricky being one of them. And I also got to work with Hector, recording with him wise. So during Desert Death, I knew I wanted to like keep working with Hector, so I saw an opening to play with him in Maldito Dios for just filling in. But I just took the chance and I told Ricky that like I'll learn the songs. He gave me a week, played a show with him, learned the songs within the weekend, and everything went fine. Kept jamming with him for a while till I officially joined the band, and from there, I ended up filling in also for Predecessor, which is my best friend's band. You might know Vic and Amo. They need to also fill in for a show. I was playing with MD, and that was the first time I did sets back to back, and realized that I need to work on my cardio, to be honest, because I was like dying. But it was fun. Like I started doing something more different from like just chugging and breakdowns, and it was more punk and like fast stuff. And eventually ended up joining them. Put out both bands. Put out new EPs recently. Say a Prayer and The First Communion. Shout out to Catholics, I guess. And yeah, pretty much took a break from Rot and Disgust. Put it on hold just so I could focus on playing with my friends. So for amp head, I bought the 5153 50 watt because I was looking into getting a more more of a higher price amps, if that makes sense. Like because I had a Bugera at first and it was like it was good, but it wasn't like what I wanted it to sound like, especially at a live setting. So I was like looking into getting a Mesa dual rectifier, 6505 plus or 5153. And my favorite band at the time when I bought it was Vane. And I talked to the guitarist about like tone and stuff, and he just told me just get the 5153. Like you don't, it's easy to like find the tone you want, and that's pretty much what I did. For the longest time, I was doing that and running a TS9 or a TS9 clone because I had both variants. They both sound the same. It's like the same shit, except one has a cool little art. But yeah, TS9 Tube Screamer, perfect for like metallic hardcore or any kind of hardcore, if you ask me. I just use a random delay pedal. I've been through a bunch of those. I'm not gonna give you a specific brand because I don't even know if the one I'm using right now I'm gonna have it within the next year. So that's all I use. It's guitar wise, I use an LTD SN1. I specifically bought that one because when I was recording Desert Death with Ron Discuss, I wanted to go for like a real death metal metallic sound. Like I don't know, I didn't want it to sound too chainsaw-y, but like I wanted to have like pretty sick tone, like. So I went with that guitar because I was just planning to either doing that or getting new pickups, and I didn't want to do the whole work of like switching out my pickups again. So I just went with buying a brand new guitar, and ever since that's my baby. For Predecessor, I use my Ibanez RG. I think it has some deactivator pickups if I'm not mistaken, but I've swapped it out a while ago. I don't even know what I'd be doing with my guitars, but yeah, that's pretty much what I run. I also got the Tone X, which makes it easier for me to like switch amp settings between both bands because they both sound way different. One of them it's more heavy hardcore, the other one's more punk bass, and to me and my nerdiness, like I feel like they have to have separate sounds. They can't sound the same to me. So it feels my playing style was growing up. I always admired the bands like Under Oath, Poison the Well, anything related to that. How the guitarist was always like jumping around and having fun, like going crazy. That's kind of what I do. Also, the fact that I can march to my own bands, like, is what fuels me. So I'll throw kicks, two step, any little chance I get, try to jump as high as I can. Also, the fact that it's like people want to see you be like have energy. Like if you're just standing still, no one's gonna like move around. They're just be like, oh, this band doesn't even feel themselves, So it's like I want to hype up the crowd as I'm playing. Like people are gonna memorize me like fucking two stepping or jumping up and down and shit, opposed to like me actually playing a perfect set. So I don't really have any. I just stretch beforehand because I don't want to like pull muscle while I'm jumping around and all that. And then I'll chug a Red Bull, especially if I'm playing two sets in a row. I'll drink one before MD, chug it, and play Predecessor or vice versa. So for Rot and Disgust, we got the chance to open up for Suicide Silence, which for me was a full circle moment because throughout high school that was like my favorite band, and like I was that one kid who would wear the same stinky Suicide Silence hoodie every day. So it was like just an amazing moment to even get to do that. For Maldito Dios, it was a more recent one. It was this last Grown Fest. We weren't even on the bill. We just all happened to be there, and they asked us to play last minute. And we hadn't practiced in like 2 to 3 weeks prior to that, so it was kind of like nerve wracking. But once we were playing and like the song sounded solid, it was like amazing. And another favorite show with Maldito Dios was this past benefit show we had at 808. That was probably like the best hometown show we've ever gotten. The response was crazy. All the bands rocked. So those are some pretty cool shows. So how I deal with it, it's like when you play a video game and you're stuck on that one boss you like can't defeat and like you get frustrated. I instead of breaking the controller like some people do, I just literally turn it off, do something else, get my mind off of it, come back to it eventually. By the second time around, I'll like feel more natural and like I'll get through it, you know. Or because I don't like just sitting there and trying to force myself to write something. Like times I feel like I write best when I'm not like putting pressure on myself. Like the riffs just come naturally, and I feel like that's a lot easier than like being frustrated over trying to like come up with like the best breakdown or best riff ever. So I don't really write the lyrics, so I half the time I don't even know what the songs are about or like what the vocalist wrote the music about. But I want people to like, I guess, feel like they're not alone and like relate to the music itself, and that's like the main objective. Also, I want people to like just lose their shit whenever they see us too, and like be violent. It's okay to be violent sometimes, you know. We're human. It's in our nature. So for me, El Paso hardcore or hardcore in general, it's like it's not a trend. It's like a lifestyle. Like I don't want to sound like corny or anything, but it's true, you know. Like some people get it and some people don't, and I'm not gonna be sit here and force you to like understand why shit happens, you know. But also it's about like the friendship, you know. Like I know if I go to a show and see familiar faces that I always see, it's gonna be a good show regardless if there's 100 people there or just 20 people. It's like if I see my friends there, I'm gonna have a good time and go get cometa right afterwards or any food place, right, depending on what city we are at. And it's also like seeing the friends that come from out of town and like nearby cities, which for us it's basically just Albuquerque and like the people who go out of the way to stop in El Paso. So local bands that shaped me as an artist was Barbarian, Saberwolf, of course. They're like the main two, especially because they've been doing a lot for El Paso hardcore. There's also a band from not local but our sister city, Las Cruces, called Damien. Um, they shaped me a lot in the way I play, and shout out to Jerry. He's the reason why I became a guitar tech and like taught me everything I know regarding with gear and like how to do anything guitar related. So also there's a band Missing Link, not the New York band. If you know, you know. Shout out Doghouse. Um, as well, Hector shaped me a lot, especially becoming a more of a like tight musician and be more locked in general. Cause like I was just half-assing playing guitar before then. I didn't know how the fuck to use a click track or anything, and now like I'm more tight with the way I play. And he like I don't know, he helped me out a lot for sure. Uh, Local places that like shaped me are the venues that were around when I started going to shows, which was the Spot, Open Gate, and the War Room. Shout out to Atrocious and then Seduce and Destroy, Artery. They're the they're the like new gen of the scene, and they seem to be killing it right now. I also want to give a shout out to Barbarian Saberwolf for still sticking around and doing stuff for like the new people, you know. Shout out to Glass and Grief. They're ever seems to be bringing all these bands and like keeping the scene alive. So keep doing that shit. Also, shout out to No Push Mosh. During that time they were around, like, probably put me on the best shows I've ever played in my entire life. Also, shout out to Nas, from taking pictures to filling in for our bands, and like also playing in his own band, which is technically my band too. And Barbarian, bringing them up again. Shout out to True Fury and Hector. If you're in a band claiming El Paso Hardcore, you're not recording with him, you're not El Paso Hardcore. That's all I gotta say. Lastly, shout out to Captain Howdy. That's my dog.